You were told that things would get worse as we got closer to Trump's re-election, November 3rd. Well, it's certainly getting worse in a lot of really strange ways. In the conspiratorial ways, we got a pandemic, lockdown, and mass rioting. But let's get out of the actual, speculative territory and more conspiratorial territory into the fact-based. Twitter explains labeling policy after top Dems tweets go unchecked. What? Twitter won't fact check misleading, fake information put out by top Democrats? Is anybody surprised? I know I'm not, because they haven't been doing it for the longest time. Why would they start doing it now? Top Dems, Biden, Schumer, and Pelosi all tweeted about confrontation between police and protesters near the White House. Yet they place labels on Trump, they place labels on Republicans, but they refuse to fact-check Democrats. And they give one very simple reason. Well, we're not fact-checking everything, only the Republicans. Okay, that last part I added, but I think it was implied, right? Twitter. President Trump's favorite form of social media is attempting to clarify its content moderation policies after fact-checking some of his posts, but failing to do the same for disputed tweets by top Democrats. Oh, of course. Hey, look at that. Their stock is up, huh? Quote, here's what they said. Yeah. Quote, we are not attempting to address all misinformation, Twitter said on its corporate safety account Tuesday, as claims about misleading information swirl in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. The race between Trump and likely Democratic nominee Joe Biden is heating up amid the worst downturn since the Great Depression and a wave of sometimes violent protests over the death of black men in police custody. Against the backdrop, claims of misinformation about both the behavior of demonstrators and the source and risks of the COVID-19 pandemic that led to the slump have permeated social media, prompting calls to better ensure accuracy. Well, we can't have fake news swirling about the internet. How would we survive? I mean, it's not like it's an open forum where anyone can say what they want. Even if they're not on social media, they can buy their own website. Oh, anybody can just make a website and post stuff. I get it. Social media is different because it centralizes a lot of it. There's a lot of big problems with that idea, but come on, man, you're not going to stop all misinformation. So by going after Trump specifically, you're basically telling everybody that you're putting your finger on the scale. You put your thumb on the scale for the Democrats. Here's what they say at Twitter. Such efforts are prioritized based on the highest potential for harm, focusing on manipulated media, civic integrity, and COVID-19. The company's safety team added, quote, likelihood, severity, and type of potential harm, along with reach and scale factor into this. They're lying to you. Why would they label Matt Gaetz's tweet about Antifa, but not the woman who was trying to teach people how to tear down the Washington Monument? Now, some people said she may have been talking about something else, but come on, man. It doesn't matter. You've got tons of leftists calling for violence on Twitter, and they do nothing. So now they lie. They're trying to find an excuse to purposefully jam up the president and help the Democrats. It's that simple, man. Here's what they said. Twitter safety says, one, Twitter shouldn't determine the truthfulness of tweets. Two, Twitter should provide context to help people make up their own minds in cases where the substance of a tweet is disputed. Hence, our focus is on providing context, not fact-checking. We are not attempting to address all misinformation. Instead, we prioritize based on the highest potential for harm, focusing on manipulated media, civic integrity, and COVID-19. Likelihood, severity, and type of potential harm, along with reach and scale. What's that? Type of potential harm? And there it is. The harm you're concerned about isn't allowed. That's it. You can talk about very specific conservative issues, maybe churches. You want to go to a church and pray? Well, that kind of harm is not what we're talking about. So what? If I tweet about climate change, are you going to, considering it's disputed among conservatives and liberals, will you fact check my post saying climate change is a bad thing? Will you put a fact check under that saying actually conservatives believe it isn't? No, of course they wouldn't. They're absolutely biased towards one ideology. And it's because they like winning. It's all tribalism. That's all they want. They say this. Twitter, however, did not place fact check labels on tweets by Biden, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and other members of the Democratic Party after they said peaceful protesters were tear gassed and removed from Washington's Lafayette Park before Trump's walk to St. John's Church from the White House on Monday evening. Well, a number of print and TV news outlets described events similarly and photos and video showed colored smoke wafting over the area. The U.S. Park Police said that no tear gas was used and that protesters had engaged in violence, throwing projectiles including bricks, frozen water bottles, and caustic liquids. I'm not a big fan of trusting the government, I got to be honest. If the police come out and say they were being violent, I'm going to be like, I don't know if I believe you. Was it before or after? Who started it? It's hard to know. You got to be there. What I can say is, at the very least, you had a curfew, and the police were going to clear the way, likely for that reason. Protesters like to do this thing where they, you know, little kids, when they're fighting, they'll be like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. And they like put your hand, they put their hand in your face. We see videos of this all the time. I have personally witnessed this. They put themselves as close to the cops as possible and say, but I'm not touching you. But I'm not touching you. And when the cops tell them to move, they go, help, help. I'm being repressed. Help, help. If you get the reference. So I can't tell you what happened down in D.C. I can tell you you've got conflicting statements. Conflicting statements. Excellent. Considering it's Joe Biden who's running for president, it's important that Twitter show the conflicting story around what happened, right? No. And they said it's because we're not fact checking everything. You know, it's about potential harm. And we think Joe Biden is the right choice. Therefore, Trump is harmful. That's what they're saying, right? Take a look at what Joe Biden said. He's using the American military against the American people. Oh, shut up. I just can't stand the stupidity. How dumb do you think we are, Joe Biden? You were vice president when Ferguson went down and the National Guard showed up in Ferguson. Shut your mouth, you hypocrite. He tear-gassed peaceful protesters and fired rubber bullets. No, Trump didn't do it. And besides, the official reporting now is that Bill Barr ordered it. I can't stand this. For a photo. For our children, for the very soul of our country, we must defeat him. But I mean it when I say this. We can only do it together. Look, man, I got criticisms for Trump. Did you hear what he was saying? I didn't really go down to the bunker. That's fake news. I mean, I did go down for a little bit. It was more like an inspection. Okay, fine. I think it's probably fair to say, but just to own it, yes, just say this. I went down to the bunker. And then I came out and went across the street to the church, took a picture. That's all I care to hear about. What Joe Biden is doing here, it's just, you know what, man? He's using the American military. Just shut up. Okay? Are we going to sit here and complain about everything you did? Black Lives Matter started under you, Joe Biden. Why am I going to think that you're going to do anything better? You're full of it, same as everybody else. Okay, but anyway, we're supposed to be complaining about Twitter here. Nancy Pelosi says, across our country, Americans are protesting for an end to the pattern of racial injustice and brutality we saw most recently in the murder of George Floyd. That is a true statement. Yet at a time when our country cries out for unification, the president is ripping it apart. No, that is extremists and looters and rioters who are pulling up in luxury vehicles in New York to steal stuff. She said, tear gassing peaceful protesters without provocation, just so that the president could pose for photos outside a church, dishonors every value that faith teaches us. I just can't stand these people. Yeah, you know what? They will twist and mangle and spin everything they can. Why? Because they think you're stupid. Well, fortunately for you, you're not. Unfortunately for you, other people are. And the stupid people eat it right up. And then they come out and say, the Trump people are so dumb. Hold on a second. There are a lot of dumb Trump people. They do eat up a lot of what Trump says. I've seen the excuses for Trump on Twitter. But come on, man. We've watched what happens. We can understand conflicting narratives. We're regular people. And whether you support Trump or don't, there are smart people who can watch a news story saying peaceful protesters and Bill Barr and the police saying they were agitating or getting violent. And you can realize there is a conflicting narrative and you'll have to figure it out for yourself based on what you think. Do you believe the protesters started engaging in violent tactics or obstruction of some sort to stop the enforcement of the curfew? Fair assessment. In which case, you go by your gut. Chuck Schumer said President Trump ordered federal officers to attack peaceful American citizens exercising their constitutional rights by tear gassing them in a public park while military helicopters flew overhead. Appalling. An abuse of presidential power, blatantly unconstitutional, blah, 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 blah. You want to talk to me about what the presidents did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? We can talk about unconstitutional. We can talk about, Kent State. We can talk about a lot of things. A lot of what we know is to be constitutional, it's changed because of the interpretations by the Supreme Court. More importantly, can you prove Trump ordered anything? Oh, what's that? The media says Bill Barr did it. And here we are. Twitter won't correct the record. Now, Donald Trump can say in his opinion something will happen, and they fact check it. I kid you not. Let me slow you down. Trump gave his opinion. There's no way we will not see, he basically said that he thinks there will be voter fraud with mail-in voting. So they fact checked that, linking to the opinions of CNN. Twitter is evil. These people are evil. These are weird, sick, dangerous people who think they're better than you. And so they'll lie to you. And if you're smart enough to see through the lies, well, then they will just smear and insult you. Because unless you're willing to chant "Google gobble one of us," you're an outsider and they will lie about you. Now, I guess what? Life may be a lot easier for those sitting at the table chanting "Google gobble, Google gobble." I prefer to know the truth. I prefer to know the truth to the best of my abilities to understand it. And I prefer to live on my feet. Maybe a lot of people just don't care. I guess they can do what they want then and keep saying, "But my private business." Twitter is biased. So long as they benefit one political faction, that political faction will act like they're not. It's obvious. Stick around. One more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.